All right, today's the day. Get it installed and maybe, hopefully, start it if it starts. I honestly still don't even know if this is a running engine, so a little bit scared, a little bit hopeful, well, a lot of bit hopeful, a little bit scared, and I guess we're gonna get to it. Continuing on, we have the donor engine rigged up to the crane, and we're gonna lift her up and get her in. So this was actually an easy part of the whole day. The easiest part was just putting the engine in. The hard part came in bolting the bell housing up. I had a really hard time lining everything up. The transmission was twisted, let's call it clockwise, and the engine, with the way I was lifting it, I couldn't get enough weight on the back end of the engine for it to twist down. So underneath the Jeep, when I was trying to connect everything up, it was being a real pain. I also figured I would remove the engine mounts, as you just potentially saw as I fly by at 12 times speed, just so I could drop the engine just a little bit farther down like that. And that did allow me to get a little bit better lineup. Ultimately, I ended up recruiting some neighbors to help me twist the engine while I twisted the transmission, and was able to get things bolted in. Here you can see I'm trying to get something started as far as bolts go right there. Just wasn't happening though. Alright guys, let me give you a little update. So the last thing you saw, as far as I remember on the camera, is me dropping the engine into the bay smoothly, majestically, easy. And then the thing you didn't see is 4 seconds later, I had it all bolted together. Right. So, alright, so this is where we stand right now. So the engine is in, it's bolted to the bell housing. I put brandy new spanking engine mounts in, so those are in. I got stuck. I was having a real hard time getting it to line up, so I called my neighbor over, who's a super cool dude, and he happened to have his brother around, so he came over as well, and between the three of us we were able to get everything mounted to the bell housing, motor mounts in, and that's where they left me. And super grateful, very much so grateful. So, because I don't know that I could have done it by myself. I've read a lot of articles where people do it by themselves, and I have no idea how they do that by themselves. So if you do it by yourself, I admire you just a little bit. So anyway, this is where we're at. We're bolted to the bell housing. Torque converter is in. I stayed down there, had a neighbor spin this. Again, that would be super pain in the butt by yourself, trying to do that together on your own. But the torque converter is bolted to the flywheel. We're bolted to the whatchamacallit, thingy-majiggy. We dumped 6 quarts of oil in there before we started spinning things around. I don't know that it helped without, any oil pump going, but we did that to get the intake in here. So I replaced the engine mounts right now with this, and they're brand new. So when I pulled this plenum out, it kind of just slid right out. It kind of got on this weather stripping, but it slid out, okay? But the engine mounts were toast. But the brand new engine mounts were sitting just a little bit higher, rightfully so, and I could not get this in. I ended up putting a bottle jack on this valve cover and a bottle jack on that cover and jacking up the lip. I pulled this weather stripping. I don't even know if you can see, sorry. I pulled this weather strip off, bottle jack, and jacked this up just enough to be able to slide this in. Yes, I did put new gaskets on the intake manifold, so those are brand new. All right. So originally, I was trying to put mostly new parts in this thing, but the fuel injectors are 50 bucks each, and there's 8 of them, so we're not putting new fuel injectors in. So I pulled all of these and I kind of ran some brake cleaner through them, and then I kind of dunked them in some transmission fluid, some ATF, and hopefully that cleans them up nice and neat and everything. I do have brand new O-rings. I actually don't even remember buying them, but I have a kit that came, this kit right here, 93205, MS 93205. It's got brand new O-rings for the fuel injectors. This is the fuel rail that was in the donor engine, but I think the fuel rail that was in this one is actually in better shape, so we're going to reuse the fuel rail from this engine originally, not this engine, but the Jeep. The new intake on the donor engine, these things were stripped the heck out for the map sensor, so I'm going to reuse my old which there is oil all over inside. I noticed when I turned this upside down, it just started dunking oil everywhere, but that's beside the fact. Anyway, so where are we at? So right now, I just got the intake manifold all bolted down. I'm putting this throttle cable support bracket back on right now, as soon as I can find the other two little bolts for it anyway. I'm kind of missing those, but they're somewhere. So I want to find those bolts, put that all in, put this in, and then we can kind of slide our throttle cable and I'm guessing that's the transmission cable, I really don't know, into the throttle body area. The throttle body can then go on. The pass-through from valve to valve, these little elbows right here, this one is completely cracked. It's completely cracked on both of mine. Both of them look exactly like that. I don't know what to call these, to even Google it and look for it. Either way, I haven't taken time yet. So current fix right now is electrical tape just all the way around it. I don't even know if it matters. I think it's just a passive pass-through to equalize pressure. I don't know, I'm just making that up off the top of my head, but that's electrically taped right now. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and replace the O-rings, find the screws for this little bracket here, and then at that point, we did put new spark plugs in, so I'm going to vacuum out all these holes. I'm going to put the fuel rail on, put our ignition coils all back in, and then at that point, I'm going to try and connect most of the hoses and sensors. So like this, wherever the hell that goes. I'm going to put this on with, you know, the throttle body, and we can put our dipsticks back in. And then it's just a matter of wiring everything up. My engine mount bolts are loose because some of the ground slide in behind the engine mount, so I left those kind of loose for now. Once we get all the wiring and everything, I'm focusing on the engine. So once all this is attached, we'll go ahead and we'll work on getting the radiator and fan back in. I mean, we're getting close to firing this thing up. So I didn't buy a thermostat. I don't know why I didn't buy a thermostat. O'Reilly should have one. I'm probably going to make a run down to O'Reilly's here shortly, get a thermostat. As long as this is wide open, I might as well just replace it. I honestly have no idea why I haven't replaced it yet. We're going to get a coolant temperature sensor. Both the ones on the old engines look nasty and broken, so we're just going to go ahead and replace it. I'm going to get a new map sensor just for the hell of it. I honestly don't even know what this sensor is called in order to buy a new one, so that one's going to stay. And yeah, I wasn't going to replace all the sensors, and then I don't know, it just kind of makes sense. Most of them are pain in the butt to get to anyway, so this one shouldn't be too bad, but I don't know, and just replace them all, I guess. If the engine, so the ECM's gonna have to relearn this whole entire system, I might as well have new sensors in for it to relearn. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna continue on after I go take a leak inside. Still got the power steering pump too, but there's hoses attached to that, that'll wait. As we carry on getting this all set up, I found myself a comfy spot and started going for everything I could get my hands on. So remember, we did new spark plugs. We've got the fuel injectors in there. We've got these cables for the throttle body. I had to slide those in, find the rubber bushing thing. As far as the fuel injectors, we had new O-rings, as we talked about already. Those all went in. Those are pretty easy. Tried to soak them in some oil first, not oil, ATF, just to keep them lubed up. And yeah, that went on pretty good. Here's some ATF. I started cleaning things while I was in there, and I just found it, you know, I like to have things clean. Not everything, but the things that function. So the fuel rail I just popped right on in place. Something I missed was the retaining clips for the injectors. I did get the 4, whatever those are, 8mm bolts to hold the fuel rail in place, but there are some wire clips that go from that into the fuel injectors that I missed. Don't forget those. Because as of now, well, I threw on the throttle body gasket for whatever reason I did at that point. But now I'm just connecting in my spark plugs, connecting the, whatever they are, the knock sensors, the fuel injectors, getting all that stuff hooked up and the electrical done. And now the throttle body, just getting that put in place as well.
None of this stuff was hard. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces. I was a little bit worried about missing bolts and not being able to find them. I did not bag them. I just kind of threw them all in a pan, and everything pretty much went back together the way it came off. Pretty easy. So here I'm just continuing on, plugging, lots and lots of wires and connectors. It would be kind of hard to mess these up. Those are your spark plug coils and boots, your ignition coils, whatever you want to call them. Those are all in now. And, well, I guess one side was in. Now we're tackling the other side. These ones down here by the two dipsticks is a real pain in the butt. If you want to see a detailed video on the other WJ, I have a spark plug replacement video. Go ahead and check that out if you're looking for it. Alright, so now we've got some more sensors going in on the front of your plenum. We've got your coolant temperature sensors, what I'm guessing that one is up in front. I'm just going to tighten that down as well. Plug those in and wally-da-da. Alright, moving down here. So I ordered a thermostat and it finally came in. I would have done this ahead of time, but oh well. New thermostat going in. This is a real easy replacement, guys. One of the easier ones I've ever done, actually, and I've done quite a few. I'm not a mechanic, keep that in mind. So when I say quite a few, I mean quite a few shade tree mechanic. We're probably up to a dozen or so thermostats in my time. Alright, as far as the radiator, the fan shroud, the hydraulic pump, all of this stuff, I replaced all the rubbers. If you're doing this much work, guys, you're going in, you're replacing an entire engine, I would recommend just getting new rubber simply for the fact that, I mean, why not? So I did reuse these spring clips, the factory spring clips. And I'll tell you right now, I ended up having one of them leak, and I went to the more, I don't know what you want to call them, convenient worm-style clamps. So heads up, these are old. They're 20-some-year-old clips. They're going to leak. If the outside diameter of your hose isn't the exact same as the previous hose, then you could have issues, and I'm guessing that's exactly what happened to me. So I just ended up having to go back and replace them, which is a pain in the butt. I'd recommend doing it in the first place. Alright, power steering pump. Yes, more hose replacements. All this rubber I took and replaced because why not? Rubber's cheap, good insurance, and worthwhile in my opinion. Alright, so that's going in. Guys, remember, if you like what you see, keep in mind, I am just a small little subscriber. This is not my day job. This is my weekend hobby. You guys help me keep these videos coming with your subscribing donations. I've got links down below, PayPal, Zelle, and Amazon. Those all help me out, guys. It helps to keep these videos coming. So this was a fairly big project for me as well. This is the biggest project I've tackled by myself to date. And so the camera I kind of just set up and I just kind of let it roll while I worked. If you want to see more in-depth steps on all this stuff, let me know in the comments below. I do have 2 more WJs that I got to get running. And if we end up doing this again, I can spend the time and do way more in-depth on one of those videos. These are your AC compressor and alternators going in here. I was also kind of under time crunch with this Jeep. I wanted it ready for cold winter, and I was already running quite a bit behind, so I just kind of wanted to tackle it. Videoing makes everything take so much longer. Alright, so upper radiator hose going in, and I found out that that radiator hose was a little bit too long, and I ended up cutting it. And it is what it is. You probably don't have to remove these wrappers. I ended up cutting the bottom radiator hose as well. Alright, so this is the other WJ I have. That one's going to be going on for running next, and I needed to steal the catalytic converters off of it. So by myself, this was the most reasonable way I could find to get this up on ramp so I can get the cats off, being that it doesn't run either.
Alright, so now essentially all we're doing is we're stealing the cats and the tailpipe off of this thing to put on the Blue Jeep. So that's what we did. We just got it off the ground. I did not think that was going to work out, actually. So I'm glad that it did, but I didn't think it would. So I'm going to chalk this thing real good. I'm going to crawl under there. Hopefully I'm going to get the exhaust completely off and onto the other Jeep. Let's go.
Alright, due to tight spaces and it being freaking cold outside, I did not film removing and replacing the cats. So those are now under the blue Jeep, and next stop is getting a battery in this place. So I kind of went to my local store and got some terminals. They didn't really have anything available, so I got what they had and kind of jimmy rigged this together. I have plans to go back and do this later. The original clamps that were battery terminal clamps that were on these wires were toast. There had been a lot of channel lock and vice grip use before my time, and well, now I'm just putting on these eyelets. So we cut those original clamps off, and now I'm putting an eyelet on each of the 4 cables, 2 on the negatives and 2 on the positives. With this hydraulic press, this is an amazing press, hugely helpful. But because that the store didn't have what I was needing per se, these eyelets didn't quite fit on the positive side. I ended up drilling them out quite a bit to get them to fit. So here we go, finding a drill bit, grabbing the channel locks, drilling it out. It took a few tries to get it to end up fitting, but we finally got them in there. And eventually, like I said, I want to redo this whole thing anyway. Make this a little nicer looking. At this point, I still didn't even know if the Jeep was going to run, so there's that. Alright, so new terminal clamps are on, and these just have the thumb screws so you can easily put it in. Yes, we will put the tray in later. Right now, we just want to make sure this thing runs and starts.
Alright, so this is what we got going on right now. Stick the key in, turn it. Okay, so that key light that was on up here does go out. But then if you turn it, that's all you got. Alright, back to it. I got the ignition on. And then I've got a little alligator clip going to the ignition terminal on the starter. And this is what we get. So the starter's clicking, definitely clicking, but it's not turning over the engine. That kind of welded itself in right there. So that tells me that the starter is either not strong enough, because you can spin it by hand pretty easy. It's just not quite strong enough, I guess. Or a ground missing. All right, temp number 5,486,862. Wrong key. All right, temp number 5,800,000, 5,063,000, something like that. Let's see. Woo! She starts. Oh yeah! Woo! I didn't think it was actually going to happen. Oh yeah! Alright guys, time has come to get her out of the garage. If we can fit in the door anyway. Oh, kick her chocks out of the way. Whew, chocks in there good. There she goes. Probably right under the other tire for my luck. See if I can squish in here. Alright. Key. You ready? On we go. Alright. Close the door. Brake. Get her in drive. Get her out of the garage. Oh! We do not really have much in the way of brakes. Haha. As pedal to the ground, we're still moving. Oh, so we'll do it. There we go. I'll put that in park, and we're gonna let this idle the smoke out. Keeping in mind, all we got is the catalytic converter, is nothing else. So according to this, our battery's charging with our alternator. We've got a very smooth, well, almost very smooth RPM. Our oil pressure is on the high side, interestingly enough. I've got an airbag light and a fuel light, but the fuel, I think the fuel pump sending unit's dead, so that's what that's from, I'm guessing. So
Alright guys, we are in the blue Jeep and we are on the freeway doing 75 miles an hour and she's doing just fine. Some crappy ass tires, but whatever. I'm pretty excited. We got tires scheduled for tomorrow. Windshield will be available tomorrow. We're not going to get it installed quite yet because of scheduling issues. But the Jeep is running and driving. We're on the freeway. I think we're going to need a fuel pump. I can hear it screaming back there. The fuel pump is not happy. It's probably because the fuel's all gummed up. I don't know if you guys can, you probably can't hear it, but it's a constant, and I can hear it in here. So yeah, that's no good. But I think if we just run it for a while, it might break itself free, or we might end up replacing it. I already bought one, so if we have to replace it, not the end of the world. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked, guys. Obviously, definitely need a windshield. But yeah, cruising down here. We got an airbag light on, but I'm guessing that's because of the missing stereo situation. The fuel pressure is a little bit high, but I think that might be a sensor because it kind of sits there no matter what. But yeah, I put 10 gallons of fuel in it, charging at 14 volts for the battery. Temperature's running good. I'm pretty stoked, guys. I want to run this for just a little bit longer to the next exit, turn around, go a couple more exits the other way. I'm trying not to get too far from home, especially with that fuel pump humming. But yeah, I'm excited, guys. It's the first vehicle engine I've ever changed out, and feels like it's pretty big to me. So I'm happy. All right, guys. We'll catch you later.